Alrighty, so News of the Week episode on this Thursday afternoon, and I know I'm doing once again on a Thursday afternoon instead of a Wednesday. Usually I do these News of the Week episode on a Wednesday, but nowadays I just do it either on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and sometimes I do it on a Tuesday or Friday. And before we actually get to talk about some of the transfer rumors and also the signings, because we'll once again have those that happened in this past week, and we're gonna get more as the European transfer window is about to open, and the same goes for the MLS secondary transfer window. There's going to be more rumors and signings that's going to go on as the summer goes along. But before that, I want to do a quick recap in terms of the Brazil versus US game. Now, I didn't watch the whole game. I think I watched majority of the first half, and I gotta say, the US actually were the better team in the first half against Brazil. Now, from what I also have seen, and certainly the highlights of this game, that kind of changed in the second half. Brazil kind of really took over, and I gotta say, Matt Turner basically did his best Tim Howard impression because he made a ton of save in this one. So much saves that he was right around the same number that Tim Howard basically made as many save as he did in that game against Belgium back in the World Cup in 2014, and he had to make those saves too because Brazil was really pushing hard to try to get the win, but still, in the end, it was a 1-1 draw in this game. Those two goals came early in this game with Rodrigo scoring early on, and then Pulisic basically equalized not long after, and that was a great goal there from Christian Pulisic too. I mean, I usually don't see the U.S. score from direct free kicks, but that's what we saw in this play. In fact, they've also mentioned that is actually the first goal that Brazil has given up from a direct free kick since Luis Suarez did it back in 2021. So yeah, this is a team that doesn't give up direct free kick goals very often, and that I know there are going to be some people who say, well, Brazil is not the same Brazil as what we seen a couple of years ago, and even some say that this is one of the worst Brazil side in recent memory. But at the end of the day, I think this is a good this is a good result in terms of trying to at least calm some of the doomers about what happened a couple of days ago when the U.S. got absolutely thrashed by Colombia in that game. And I also thought that in the first half, the U.S. was a better team against Brazil. I mean, they had chances in that game besides the Pulisic free kick goal. I mean, they even forced Allison to make a couple of saves. And I think in the second half, they also had that one big chance. I think it was around the 56-minute mark when Pulisic had a chance to score his second goal, but he was robbed by Allison on a 1v1 opportunity. Imagine if that one went in and the U.S. would have won this one 2-1. I mean, that would be just kind of a complete 180 compared to what happened just a couple days ago when they got absolutely thrashed and all the doomers basically came out talking about how, oh boy, this is gonna get ugly, and that Greg Berhalter clearly need to be fired from the spot. But still, as I alluded to when I talked about that Colombia versus US game, I'm not really going to judge too much on this team until when we get to Copa America and see how they do. Now, if they absolutely stink it out in Copa America and they get knocked out in the group stage and not getting any points whatsoever, then yeah, there is definitely a big concern, and rightfully so. I think that the calling for Greg Berhalter to relieve his duty for the national team might actually happen. But still, we'll see how the U.S. is going to do in this competition, and also, I wonder what the expectation is in terms of this team in this competition, because obviously winning it is an unrealistic kind of expectation. Making a semifinal might be kind of an unrealistic expectation, though. Last time when Copa America was in the U.S., the Copa America Centenario, the U.S. actually did made it all the way to the semifinal before losing to Colombia and finished fourth in that slot. So it's not, you could say it's kind of unrealistic, but it could be realistic with this group. Either way, obviously the bare minimum of this team is to move on out of the group stage, and it's not going to be easy because when you look at some of the teams that they have to face in the group stage, they're going to be a couple of tricky teams that they're going to be facing. I think that one team that is going to be one that really could determine whether they move on or not is not against Uruguay, but is actually against Panama. That's going to be the one that I think could really decide the fate of whether the U.S. are going to be moving on into the knockout stage or not. Now, moving on to actually talk about some transfer rumors and news, and actually news related to MLS. So Atlanta United has announced Carl Robinson as their assistant head coach to back up the interim head coach right now. That is Rob Valentino, and this is a bit of a throwback too. Remember Carl Robinson doing his time with the Vancouver Whitecaps? And I know that doing his last couple of years with the Whitecaps, it didn't really quite work out, and Whitecaps fans were calling for his heads. But I thought he did relatively well. And one thing that I've also heard about Carl Robinson, especially from Whitecaps fans, that say that he's a very a guy that can provide a calm kind of presence in the locker room, and I feel like that's probably what Atlanta United need right now. So yeah, I think this is definitely a good hiring. And again, they said he's an assistant coach. I mean, if you're working under an intern, do you consider yourself a head assistant head co- or assistant head coach, or maybe just an interim assistant head coach? I mean, who knows how that's gonna happen? But still, I think this is definitely one that I think it's a good hiring, and also just one that, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a throwback because it's been a while since I mentioned Carl Robinson name in for the past a couple of years. Though I'm pretty sure, of course, Whitecaps fans definitely know a lot about him since he was the last head coach of this team. Well, the last two head coach, because then it was Mark Dos Santos, and then Benny Sartini is currently the head coach of Vancouver. Now, talk about some of the signings. So the Columbus Crew, they have agreed to sign midfielder Dylan Chombos from Saint Etienne. Now, this signing happened a couple of days before it was announced that Middlesbrough has reported to agree a deal to sign Columbus Crew midfielder Aiden Morris. So yeah, this is definitely kind of like replacement, and that we'll see how this new signing is going to do. I mean, obviously there's going to be some big expectation that Dylan Champos is going to do. I mean, when you basically replace the like of Aiden Morris, one of the best midfielder in this league, and one of the more attacking minded midfielder in this league, that's not really an easy task to do so. But we'll see how, of course, he will do. I mean, he is coming from Saint Etienne, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the same club that Denise Bouanga came from France? I might be completely mistaken, but if that is the case, then yeah, maybe this would, of course, turns out to do well. Though I will say that Saint Etienne hasn't been the same. I've heard that they, of course, got relegated from League and that they're now in the second division of the French league, which is a huge fall from grace, considering Saint Etienne is considered one of the more well-known club in French football. But yeah, again, this is definitely going to be an interesting kind of move, and that Dylan Champos, he's going to have some big shoes to fill. That now Aiden Morris potentially is going to be leaving. And that this also kind of makes sense that we knew that Aiden Morris eventually is going to make that jump to Europe, and him joining the Middlesbrough, we'll see how that's going to turn out. Now, the LA Galaxy, they have transferred for Daniel Aguirre to Chivas. So this again is not surprising considering Daniel Aguirre. Kind of surprised the Galaxy hasn't really given him a lot of chances. I feel like he's a guy that if you're able to give him some more minutes, he can definitely reach to his potential. And now he's going to be going to Chivas, which is also the same club that K Cal, of course, went to. And unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out so well doing his time with Chivas, and that yeah, we'll see how he's going to do, and especially if he is going to get some playing time and doing his limited minutes that he has with the Galaxy, I can definitely see the potential of him being one of the better young forward in the league, and now we'll see whether if he can recognize that now that he's joining a new team. And sometimes when you're basically in a team where you're not getting a lot of minutes, joining a new team could be a good change of scenery. Now, Toronto FC, they have signed Sean Johnson to a new contract extension. What a bounce back year it's been for Sean Johnson. I mean, remember last year how much of a nightmare season he has with TFC, and he looks like a shell of his old self during his time with NYCFC. Well, this season it's been the complete opposite. It feels like he's back to being what we've thought that he was a couple of years with NYCFC, especially during the time when they won MLS Cup. That was probably the best Sean Johnson version we have ever seen in his career, and he's definitely replicated a little bit of that this season, and well, they deserve a new contract extension. And then NYCFC forward Andres Jason has departed to join Org BK in the Danish First Division, and this is kind of similar to what I said about Daniel Aguirre going to Chivas. He's another guy that hasn't really getting a lot of minutes for NYCFC. In fact, he's kind of almost been a forgotten man. I mean, if you would tell the NYCFC fans who is Andre Jason, they probably forgot that who he is in this team, or is he's still part of this team. He's been getting pretty much no minutes for this team recently, but we'll see how he's gonna do now that he's gonna be joining a new team, and also sort of making that jump to Europe with him going to the Danish First Division. Now, moving on, talk about some of the transfer rumors. So the Houston Dynamo, they have announced that they are set to break club record fee to sign Argentine forward Ezekiel Pons, say from IEK Athens. Now, from what I heard, this is a guy that has scored plenty of goals during his time with IEK Athens, and that if he is going to be that DP number nine that the Dynamo feel like he could be, especially after what happened the last DP number nine in Seba Ferreira after having a one good season and then pretty much just completely fall off the cliff. If he can do that and just not do what Seba Ferreira did in the second season, just completely fall off the cliff, then the Dynamo could be in business, because I think it's pretty clear that this summer it's a big window for the Dynamo. They really need some reinforcement to try to get themselves back to the level that they are last season. And one of the area that they need help is that number nine position. I mean, I know Aliut has done his best in terms of trying to fill that role, but I do think that they need an elite level number nine in that spot. And not to mention, them losing Nelson Quinones to injury, that was a huge blow to them, considering he was also starting to figure things out. But if they are going to make the signing, again, it just shows you that the Dynamo are proving to people that this new regime that they have is not like the old regime. They're not afraid to spend monies, and this may be an example of it. And we'll see whether or not if that is going to be complete. Now, FC Dallas, they have rejected a bid from Boca Junior to get player Alan Velasco for $3 million with 50% sell-on fee. And good on FC Dallas decided to reject that deal. That is a ridiculously low offer for Alan Velasco, especially the player that that he is. I mean, I guess maybe Boca Juniors were just kind of offering this low number, considering he's still recovering from a torn ACL. But knowing what Alan Velasco did last season for FC Dallas, and it is pretty clear that Dallas desperately want him back, because this attack, you can clearly see that it's missing that key pieces in that number 10 position. And once Velasco does come back, there's no doubt that Dallas would get a little bit better, at least on the attacking front. But yeah, I think this offer is way too low. There's no doubt that Dallas is not going to sell Alan Velasco for any lower than maybe about $8 or $9 million. I mean, they got Alan Velasco for $7 million, so they would actually lose some money, even with a 50% sell-on fee, which is pretty high sell-on fee if you ask me. It's not a good deal. I think it's a deal that Dallas definitely did not take the bait, and that we'll see whether or not if there's going to be another deal. Now I heard that it seems like maybe Boca Junior is going to offer even more money if they really decide to do so. But ideally, I think Dallas will really want to keep Alan Velasco as long as possible, because, like I said, he clearly is being missed this season with the way that Dallas has been almost non-existent on the attacking end throughout the season. Now, Inter Miami, they are looked to sign French center back Rafael Varane from Man United. So this is your typical annual weekly Inter Miami rumor of another big name player from Europe. And while Rafael Varane is not as a big household name as what we have seen Inter Miami has been linked with, it's definitely one that it's gonna be interesting to see whether if they can get him, especially again. One of the things that everybody's going to immediately talk about when it comes to this rumor is how in the world does Inter Miami has room to sign him. And not to mention, just a couple weeks, they were rumored to get Angel Di Maria. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much mortgaged up to the eyeball when it comes to the DP spot that they have. So I don't know how this is gonna work out, and whether or not if this is gonna be true, because Varane, I'm pretty sure he still want to stay in Europe. He's only 31 years old, which for that age, that's still kind of almost right around the prime period for a defender. So yeah, this is one that, again, if they do sign him, I think this is a good signing. This could maybe be a signing that could be as good as when we saw Chiellini went to LAFC, and that really helped LAFC when Chiellini comes to that team, even though Chiellini was in his twilight of his career. But again, I go back to what I talked about and what everybody's talked about is how in the world does Inter Miami afford to comply with roster rule despite having all these players that is linked to this team, because at some point they're probably not going to have enough room to do so. And this also will use another international spot. I think they have one international spot left on their roster. I know that's quite crazy to see, consider it feels like they have unlimited international spot available with the recent international signings that they have. But I do believe that they do have one more, because some of the international spot that they gained was from players that is currently uh, on on the long-term injury reserve list, or as they call in hockey, the LTIR list. Now, there's also sources saying that Messi will indeed retire in MLS, and he says that Inter Miami is going to be set to be his last club in his professional career. So all this rumor about him maybe going to Barcelona for one last season, or maybe even going to join his boyhood club to retire as a full kind of like a full circle of life in his career with New Old Boys. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It seems like he's saying that Inter Miami and MLS is going to be the last place that he's going to be playing in his legendary career. And also, I feel like this maybe could set up in terms of him joining the front office with Inter Miami, or maybe even a global ambassador in the American game. Because I think when Messi came to this league, we all know about the big money that not only Inter Miami had to pay, but also the league really catered him, and even Apple TV the so too with all the sponsorship deal. And I feel like this is probably kind of part of it, where it's also kind of almost similar to when David Beckham came to MLS, where David Beckham at that point was considered to be a household name in the world of football, and that he eventually become a big global ambassador, especially in the North American game, and especially now that he of course is able to have exercise that rights to purchase an expansion team in Inter Miami. Now, I'm not saying that Messi will have that rights to mention. If Messi have that rights, and he'll probably bring a team in Vegas. But yeah, this is definitely setting up for him to do even a bigger role in terms of this league, or even in the North American region. But yeah, certainly I think Inter Miami will be very honored to say that yeah, the GOAT basically in his final club in his career, finished his career in our club. Now, moving on. So, Ober Vargas has completed a one-time switch from the United States to Mexico. Now, this is not a big surprise because, after he was omitted from the US U20 team, I'm pretty sure Ober Vargas is not happy about that, and he's decided that, you know what, I'm gonna switch my allegiance to Mexico and hope that I have a better chance in terms of getting selected by L3. Now, that's not really a bad idea because, I will say that L3 right now, they're going through a difficult time. They're definitely searching for a lot of talented young players, and Ober Vargas is definitely one of those players. Though I will say that he hasn't really been the same ever since he suffered that injury a couple of years ago. And not to mention, he hasn't been getting a lot of playing time with the Seattle Sounders. And maybe part of that is because he's kind of fallen down the pecking order because he hasn't been really the same since he suffered that injury. But still, again, I can understand why he would want to switch his allegiance. And especially, there's no way I think he's going to be anywhere close to being on the national team radar, or even in the youth national team radar as well, because we already say it. He was omitted from the U20 team, and that maybe is the big reason why he decided to make this switch. Now, NYCFC, they have announced that their stadium lease will actually be including a potential NWSL team, a marijuana sales, and Etihad airline naming rights, and no more games at Red Bull Arena. Now, before you ask, no, they're not going to sell marijuana inside the stadium. It's probably something to do with outside the stadium. Though it would be crazy if they decided to sell marijuana in the stadium. I think marijuana is legal in New York State. I mean, I know it's legal here now in California, but I think it's now legal in New York State, and that's why they added in part of it. Though I think that would be crazy if they decided to sell marijuana inside the stadium. In fact, that would be. I don't think there's any MLS club or even any professional club here in the U.S. that does that. They'll definitely be the first one to do so, and that I don't think that's gonna course happen. But one thing for sure in terms of this is that when they mentioned the Etihad airline naming rights, a stadium is going to be named Etihad Field, aren't ain't it? I mean, it just makes sense the fact that they're going to name that Etihad Stadium, and unfortunately, I wonder is that going to maybe get that meme about how that stadium is going to turn into the Empty Hat because Empty Hat has always been a meme talk about Man City fans not showing up, and while I know NYCFC fans will definitely show up for that new stadium. As soon as there are going to be some empty seats, I'm guaranteed that there's going to be that meme talk about the how NYCFC Stadium is the empty hat and they can't really fill their stadium whatsoever. And then, of course, the potential NWSL team. I have a feeling this is a new expansion team. I don't think Gotham FC is going to be moving to the New York area. I think they're going to stay at Red Bull Arena, but they'll definitely think about adding another NWSL team in the New York area. And I don't think that's a bad idea because I know some people would say that NWSL would love to basically go to different market, and there's a lot of market that is looking to trying to get an NWSL team. And knowing that the New York area already have one team, why you decide to add another one? Well, the New York area is very big, and I think it's that value to have two teams. I mean, there's a reason why in MLS we have two New York team and also two LA team as well. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting if they, of course, will get it. And then, of course, the no more games at Red Bull Arena. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed, knowing the fact that, well, now that they have their new stadium, they don't really need to think about playing a game at Red Bull Arena. I mean, there surely is going to be a lot of conflict in their new stadium that they have to play games at Red Bull Arena. Now, moving on to the professional referee organization, also known as Pro. So they kind of apologized to Atlanta these last couple of days because they basically say that they kind of screwed up in terms of one of the VAR call where they counted Charlotte first goal after it looked like the goal did cross the line in terms of the angle that they had, but now they said that yeah, there wasn't evidence that the goal, of course, across the line. Now, obviously, I know there's been a lot of talks of whether or not if MLS should introduce goal line technology and that will make it better. Goal line technology is not cheap to install in stadium, and to install in all 29 stadium, that's not going to be an easy thing to do and not cheap to do, and something that maybe MLS team might not think about want to spend that money to do so. But I will say this is that when you look at that angle, and I think in my review I talked about that it looked like it crossed the line. I want to take back in terms of it because I think the more I look at it, I can definitely understand and why Atlanta fans are very upset about it because it definitely didn't look like there was a really good angle. I mean, they only had that one angle that they have, and Pro basically said that that was the only angle that they can see, and from that angle, it was very tough to tell whether or not if the ball actually did cross the line or not. And this is the thing about VAR and the discussion we've been having ever since it's introduced. It is so frustrating in terms of the clear and obvious thing that Pro has always mentioned, because clear and obvious can be just almost a loosely turned that throw out differently in every game, and really could also depend on which crew is managing it, because a clear and obvious error in one VAR crew be different than the other crew that you use that meaning. And unfortunately, that is a thing that, as much as everyone wants to say that, well, then why don't we just make a universal, clear, and obvious rule and stick with that? It's not easy to do that, especially when you have different crew trying to do that. And then I have a feeling if you do decide to implement that, it's not going to make anything better. It's kind of almost similar to the whole purpose of VAR, where people said that VAR was going to fix most of the issue that it has in this game before it was introduced. And it seems like nowadays, it has. I will say that it has at least fixed some of the issue, but it has definitely not fixed more every single issue, and we still seeing calls that goes wrong. And if anything, I think now there's even more frustration when it comes to fans when with the VAR system and getting these call right than before, when fans were upset that these referees just made the bad decision before we had replay system being implemented. And then finally, last news we're going to talk about is Inter Miami, that they have announced that they are set to have a new mascot made out of psycho material. Now, unfortunately, I don't have my phone with me, and I couldn't show you the picture of the mascot. But yeah, let's just say this: it's a bit terrifying when I first saw it. Though I will say this: for every terrifying mascot that we have in this league and in other league as well, they have also been kind of infamous as well. I mean, just look at that terrifying mascot the Philadelphia Flyer has with Gritty, and how originally people really hated it, and now he's kind of like the national treasure in the NHL. And then in the other league as well when they had some terrible mascot, and then instantly it's being well loved. Though I will say this is that I'm kind of frustrated that now Inter Miami will decide to introduce a flamingo and a new bird into it, which means that basically took the title of Minnesota United being the only team in MLS to have a mascot that is a bird. But still, again, I would not be surprised if that's going to be a very iconic kind of mascot. And we even see it in this league as well. There are some really bad mascot out there, but they are instantly well loved because it's so bad that people just not only it grows on them, but it's also kind of beautiful and iconic at the same time. It's kind of weird to say, but that's kind of how I describe in terms of the mascot world and the mascot ideology that we have in this league and also in American professional sports in general. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this News of the Week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.